Question for you now, for our final hour together. It's very good to be with you. Has the BBC's view of the world become too one-sided? Or does the BBC just get attacked by both sides all the time, which shows it's doing its job well, you could argue? I ask you this because Tim Davie is the new Director General of the BBC, and I know you're listening to LBC, and I know you listen to LBC over the BBC. Of course I do. But that's not to say that I'm sure you haven't tuned in at some point or other to some level of BBC broadcast. And I just wonder what you think of it. And if you come across BBC journalists or BBC presenters on Twitter, do you think they should and do keep their views to themselves? Tim Davie wants them to. Let's get a bit of an expert view. Martin Campbell, he's a media advisor and former chief advisor to the broadcasting regulator Ofcom. Martin, it's great to have you with us. What do you make of Sarah Sands? I mean, she's former editor, of course, of the Today programme. I think she's writing in the Sunday Times today. What do you make of her comments about young employees of the BBC, that they expect to have their view of the world on air?
I think she's absolutely right. It's a bit sad that she waits until she leaves, but of course you can understand that, I suppose, to some degree. But I think she is absolutely right, and it has amazed me. Speaking, I mean, also as a former chairman of the Broadcast Journalism Training Council, to see where journalism has got to at the BBC, I think is very sad indeed, and I think she summed it up reasonably well.
Do you think there is open bias on social media at the BBC from BBC employees?
Yeah, without a doubt. But I also think that it's more cock-up than conspiracy, to be honest. I think, what's happened is that the BBC has, whoever thought it was a good idea to let anyone who represents the BBC, whether they're freelance or whether they're staff, whoever thought it was a good idea to allow them to spout their own political feelings on social media clearly didn't have any idea about how the BBC's perceived. And I think that has now crept through onto air. You do hear reports now where you're often left knowing quite clearly the views of the BBC reporters and the dispatches they do, and that's crazy.
For his part, Tim Davie, the new DG, the new Director General, he wants the BBC to be about being free from political bias, doesn't he? Guided by the pursuit of truth, not a particular agenda.
Yeah, what he's talking about is sensible journalism, and then that's what they need to get back to.
And not just sensible journalism. This is absolutely the heart of the BBC. It's supposed to be. It's bred into you that you're supposed to be impartial.
Well, it is, but if you are allowed, and I think social media has a lot to play. Obviously social media has its finger in every pie these days, but the fact of the matter is that if reporters feel that they are free to give their own views on Twitter all the time, then of course the reports they do will clearly become biased. And what has happened is that the sort of people that the BBC have been taking on have now turned the BBC News agenda into a very woke, biased agenda. But again, I don't think that's a conspiracy. I think it's cock-up. It's because it's lazy journalism. It's easy to do that. The woke agenda is a lazy agenda. It's easy copy. It's easy interviews. It's, minority factions with trenchant views about things. It's just easy. And it's as if no one's been looking at what's going on. The same with the comedy. The left-wing comedy. It's easy, sneering sort of comedy.
The problem with right-wing comedies, doesn't it punch down? Whereas left-leaning comedy punches up.
Well, yes, it does. But
what do we mean by right-wing comedy?
The sort of comedy that the BBC has allowed to become pervasive is the easy, having a go at the politicians. And okay, the Tories have been in charge in this country for a long time, but it's easy comedy to have a go at Trump's daft and Boris's hair is stupid and all this sort of stuff. And that really is what's happening. It is just lazy lazy comedy. Yes, you're right. I mean, right-wing comedy has now at least got some sort of debate going, and there are some right-wing comics out there. But I don't see it as left and right. I see it as this awful lazy journalism, awful lazy comedy. And, investigative journalism is far more difficult, and clever comedy is far more difficult, and that's what's been missing.
What was Tony Hall up to then, given your views on this? I mean, he was a former editor of, I don't think he was a former editor of BBC News itself.
Yeah, well, that's right. I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I think he was an absolute disaster at the BBC. He seemed to oversee its decline. I mean, I loved the description that one comedian had, that the BBC was managing to bang nails in its own coffin from the inside. When you've got Lord Hall, when he talked about, he said, and I think I'm quoting him correctly, if not, I apologise, but effectively he said, if the BBC is about anything, it's about diversity. Well, no, it isn't. That's not what the BBC is about. And if the guy at the top is saying that sort of nonsense, you've got a problem.
Where are you coming from politically on all this?
Well, I like to come from it. I like to think that I'm coming from it from a journalistic perspective. Journalists like Tom Mangold and John Humphreys and so on, look at the BBC, and their heads are in their hands, because the impartiality is just spoken about, and it is just sad to see the BBC, that should be flying the flag for good, solid journalism, getting into this enormous pickle. So I hope Tim Davie is going to do what he says he's going to do, because to me, I see the BBC as almost, not having an adult looking after it.
But it's a great institution, isn't it?
Fantastic institution, absolutely. You've been to other countries and see what they have on offer, and you go to America and watch what's on offer. The BBC is a fantastic institution, but it's just chopping off its own limbs bit by bit. And I think from what Tim Davie has said, that he does actually recognise that, and I really hope he does. And I hope he goes ahead and fixes it, because it needs fixing.
Do you think Gary Lineker should be tweeting politically?
No.
It looks like he'll be able to continue, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, apparently so. And if that
I do find that peculiar. I mean, because he's a respected figure at the BBC by viewers. Young people watch him, older people watch him. He's there presenting the football. And if we all know that he's a big Labour supporter, or he's a big refugee supporter, or whatever he might be, I don't know what he is. He certainly backs refugees. Don't know who he votes for. I back refugees as well, and I'd vote for Labour. But it's a problem, isn't it? I mean, to be so political.
It's a massive problem. But again, you see, you've got to the point where, because I think that there's been no adult in charge of the BBC, the salary that Lineker's getting is absolutely ridiculous. It is farcical. And then to say, well, he doesn't represent the BBC. Well, what? Why are they giving him all this money? That is crazy. And I hope Tim Davie fixes that. But you've seen the reports, and I've seen the reports that seem to say that because Lineker's a freelance, he can say what he wants.
Davie said, if you want to be an opinionated columnist or a partisan campaigner on social media, and that is a valid choice, but you should not be working at the BBC. Well, surely that covers Gaza. I mean, Gary Lineker.
I would have thought so.
I broadly speaking agree with his views, but that's not the point.
No, absolutely not. And what Tim Davie is saying there does seem to be out of kilter with the statement that the BBC PR people put out, that freelancers would be able to say what they want. Well, they shouldn't.
Well, presumably freelance news presenters won't be.
Well, yeah, but sport is news as well. But my point is, if you're throwing that much money at Lineker, which is ridiculous anyway, and just shows that the BBC can't control their purse strings properly. If you're throwing that much money at him and saying, well, he can also go outside the door and say what he wants about whatever he wants, then you're just crazy.
What do you think of me as a broadcaster?
Well, the lovely thing about our LBC is that sooner or later it will be balanced. Whoever is presenting the programme and whoever is coming on the programme and whoever is contributing to the programme, that is reflective. And what the BBC should be doing should be reflective. It shouldn't be reflective of the reporter's views. It should be reflective of what's going on, and that's what they should be delivering.
This is a lot about social media, isn't it? Because it offers people a platform outside. But it's not just about that. In defence of the BBC, I mean, when I was there, I was rigorous. I was there for nearly 9 years. I was rigorous in my impartiality, rigorous in setting up debates with both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
But it's usually attacked by people it's usually attacked by both sides, really. I mean, take Israel-Palestine, for example. People thinking that John Humphreys was biased in favour of Brexit. Turns out, by the way, I think he voted Remain.
Well, yes, yeah, probably did.
But you see, you had people who thought that the BBC was biased in favour of Brexit, and then no doubt you had people who thought that the BBC was biased in favour of Remain. So maybe it's doing an all right job.
Yeah, but no, I don't. I don't go along with the argument that says, "Oh, well, because people on the left think we're biased and people on the right think we're biased, then what we're doing is okay." I don't go along with that. What I think is when you go back 9 years to when you were at the BBC, and impartiality was all, and actually the BBC was not being attacked at that point by people. It is now because it is so obvious that something's rotten in the state of Denmark.
Very good to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
You're welcome, Matt. Thanks.
That's Martin Campbell, a media advisor and former chief advisor to the broadcasting regulator, Ofcom, with his view. What's your view? Do you trust the BBC? Do you think it's got it right? Do you think it needs a kick up the backside? 0345 60 60 973 84850 is the text. If we've never spoken before, this is your chance. I'm Matt Stadlen.